thank my dear sister who had brought me here to speak with you. I want to thank the ancestors who have made it possible for me to be in Atlanta, in America. I want to thank the spirits, my guardian angel, my own Ebushina, those groupings, the ancestral lineage that have bestowed some blessings on my father and mother, who in turn have bestowed upon me some of the gifts of which I am going to share with you this afternoon. I want to thank the spirit of this great city. I want to thank the spirits that are not seen with the naked eye, who are here with us. I want to recognize them. I want to invoke on the spirit of O'Reilly, the Anasazi elders, the indigenous people who were the custodian of this great land called America. I want to ask them, those spirits, to come and sit with us this afternoon so that whatever I, Gugu Andoh, share with you, my brothers and sisters, it will have the blessings and with supplication of the ancestors. I am truly very blessed and honored to have this opportunity to share some of the wonderful gifts the Creator had bestowed upon us. I am, of course, moved whenever I get a chance to say a word or two to my kindred spirits, those individuals that I love so much. When I was born in Ghana, some 56 odd years ago, little did I know that I would be called upon to speak to people, to speak to those that I love so much. You see, I am truly a child of miracle. You see, I was a boy of 11 when my father died in Ghana. My father, J. Andoh, who I will tell you more about, was truly George Washington Carver of Africa. My father spoke of flowers and trees and shrubs. My father distinguished himself so much that during those colonial days in Africa, where Europeans were in control in the whole land, somehow my father showed some brilliancy, brilliant mind in terms of nature, the trees, so much so that the white people felt that he must go to Oxford in the Queen's country, to write books and to continue some research on trees and shrubs, the medicines in the soil. So my father left, my beloved father left Ghana, went into Europe, some of the first Africans to go to Oxford. It's true, my father went there and he continued his research. And again, he shined like a black star. He brought many things to the attention of white people, the science. They had never heard of it before. He told them so many things about the relationship between plants and people that baffled the minds of Europeans. So they said that this man had to have been endowed with the spirit of the ancestors to understand the intimate relationship between these trees, these plants, these linkages between mankind and the Creator. For his work, many plants was named after my father in honor of his work. This is by no means a meager accomplishment, because as you know, even in America, the good doctors, the good scientists, they may go through the entire lifetime without bringing into the domain of the world any basic line of research. What I'm trying to tell you is that my father was able to bring into the whole mankind many plants that are known to be very useful in healing the body as well as the spirit. And all those plants were named after him, a very high honor. So my father had come from Europe, returned to Africa. He had been given the head of the Ghana Forest Service. But the gods do not want him to continue his work. And soon after he returned, he was called to reside with the ancestors. My father died so tragically at the prime of his life. He died. I was only 11. I wept, and I asked God in my prayer why God should do that to me, because here I am, my beloved father, whom I haven't even learned to know. He's no longer with us. I grieved so much about my father's death. I was the last of the 7 children of my family. And as it is the custom from Kemet to Ghana, our inheritance is from the female to the nephews. Hence, a son do not inherit the father. You see, in heavens, in ancient Kemet, this is our lineage. It's a matrilineal. We inherit our uncles. So you could see that Ghanaian people are direct descendants of ancient Kemet. We adhere to this lineage, the matrilineal inheritance. So when my father died, I have to stop all that I'm doing. All my father's wealth and everything had to go to my father's sister. You see, my uncle inherited all that my father had. I had to stop going to school. This is perhaps one of my saving grace. My mother, as a 7th child, my mother did not have enough money to send me to school, because in those days you have to pay to go to school. My mother told me, my son, Kweku, you must be useful to yourself. You must learn a trade such as a carpenter. You should learn to master all the skills in carpentry. And I said to myself, well, that is good. Perhaps it's something to do. I actually contemplated going to learn carpentry. I found that my goal was too big. I wanted to be in school. I couldn't see myself hammering nails, even though nails is important. So I told my mother, I don't think I like carpentry. And I said, well, what about electrician? Well, then you'll be bolting things. I said, well, Mom, I think I like that. So in Kumasi, my mother found me a very reputable electrician, a contractor, to train me. I think I lasted less than a week. I was so bored. I remember. I could not fathom how one can spend your entire life, sort of bolting things of that nature. So I told my mother, I don't like it. So during this time, I was moving up and down like all children in Kumasi, in Ghana, in West Africa. Then I pray a lot. I was so pure. I knew nothing about the world, as it were, the outside world. I believed that there was God. So I always was attempting to reach out to God, to talk to God. Then one day I went to a river in Kumasi, just outside the university. It is called River Wuri. It actually bisects the university. And I went and sat on the bank of this river. And I began to sort of daydream about my father, my dead father, and my condition. And why God should do that to me. And what am I going to do with the rest of my life? As I was contemplating on this, I fell asleep. A deep sleep befell me in Kumasi, in this bush. It was in the afternoon, about 4 o'clock, when I started to meditate and to pray. I fell deep sleep. I did not wake up until late darkness, about 10 o'clock. Very pitch dark. In fact, I was very frightened when I wake up. But during my sleep, God visited me. During that sleep in Kumasi, I had a personal experience with God. God appeared to me, and God asked me, because I was weeping, and God asked me, what is wrong with me? Why am I so sad? And why do I mention His name all the time for God to come and talk to me? I said, well, my father is dead, and they say you are God, so I have been praying that you will come and show me a miracle. God says, quickly, tell me what you want right now. Tell me what you want, why you've been crying, and I'll give it to you. And I panicked, because I haven't really arranged my mind what I really wanted. God said, tell me right now. I said, don't even move, just say it right now what you want. So as I was trying to find out what I needed to do with my life, then I saw trees, you see, because I was in the bush. So I said, where God? If you want me to say something, then why don't you let me? Somehow I thought it was even silly, because here am I, not in school. I said, let me know all about the trees here. And then, once I know the trees, take me all over the world. Take me to London. Take me to America. Take me to Moscow. Take me to here. Anywhere that I have actually seen on the map. I said, then if you take me there, then I will know that you are God. God says that to me, clearly, that I'll give you all what you've asked. I'll give you all that you've asked. And furthermore, you are going to go to all these places you've mentioned. And when you go there, you'll stand in the midst of the people, and your domain will be the trees and the shrubs. What you touch in this galaxy, you will be reckoned as one of the elders for all time, who have dominion over the elemental energies that reside in the trees and the shrubs. God says, I've given you that power, but when you meet the people that you love so much, wherever you may be, simply tell them what I just have told you. Tell them that there is a living God. You see, God says, this is that's your payback. When I do this, like I've done this today with you, this is the covenant that I signed with God. God says I should let people know that there is a living God who understands and hears all our cries. And then when I tell them, I should use my own experiences to let them know that they also, when they cry to the Almighty One in sincerity, no matter what plague them, the Creator will listen. God says, when I do that, that is my payment to Him, to her, and that I will go on and on and on to do my work. So I was happy. I left this jungle. So happy. When I got home, I realized that in order for me to fulfill that legacy, I have to go to school. Then my mother had no money. So you know how I felt. I was so disappointed, so heartbroken. So I walked. Those of you who've been to Ghana, who've been to Kumasi, in answering to God's call, I said that let me go and see how many books there are in the world. Now listen, I thought to myself at that time, 11-year-old, I thought that the whole books in the world was about 50. You see? And that if one can study that 50 books, then you will know all that there is to know about anything. So I walked to Kumasi Library. Those of you who've been to Kumasi, you know the cultural center in Kumasi. You know, next door to it is the Kumasi Library. So I walked, found out where the library was. When I went into the library, I opened the door. My first visit to a library. When I opened the door, and I saw books like you've done here, all on the wall. I lost all figures. I realized there was so much to learn, and I was so disappointed. And I said to myself, how can I learn all these things? Now, I continued to believe that truly God was with me. And one day, I was sitting down with my mother and my brothers and sisters in Ghana. Then all of a sudden, just like we all sitting here, I saw my father walking, my dead father, walking towards me. Indeed, wearing a black dress like I'm wearing my trousers. My father, who's dead? Now listen, there is such a thing. So I saw my father clearly. But I was so frightened, I passed out. My father appeared to me on about dozen different times, and each time I would pass out. So my family then came to know that truly the ancestors want to work with me in some capacity. So I was in Ghana, like all young people, trying to learn, looking at books, turning books around, not being in school. Then one day, the man who took over from my father in forestry department, the man says that whenever he sleeps and he's in the office, he sees my father's spirit telling him to go and bring one of the last children, his children, into the herbarium. This happened to the man for a long time. The man could not help it, so he sent a message to my mother that he's been having some strange dreams. My dead father had been appearing to him that there is his young son must come to work in that herbarium. So one day my mother called me and said, your father had appeared to some people and they said that you should go to the forestry department and you must go there, report to the authorities. So a boy, I went to the forestry. When I got to the forestry, the guy said, there you are. When I saw your father, I saw you at the same time. And you would work in this place. I said, me? He says, yes, in a herbarium, like a university herbarium. So my duty was to dust the place, clean the place, and to rearrange some of the scientific materials. That was my work. I was so happy. I started my work. Then one day, I was sitting in that herbarium. I was sitting there like that, looking at all these. They've divided the herbarium. For those of you who do not know what a herbarium is a place, it's a room where all plants, just like these books that have been arranged, have been categorized based on their age, their evolutionary timeline. them all together. So here I am, sitting in this room one day, not thinking about anything. Then all of a sudden, my mind opened like a book. All of a sudden, I begin to intuitively can recite things without even looking. What comes next? I can group plans without actually seeing the plans. It baffled all the elders in Ghana. So I have actually, my father had come to dwell in me. I have begun to do things that was beyond a child in Ghana, as far as the natural flora is concerned. So the government was so enthused, and it took me to university to develop the botanic gardens. They sent me so many places. I have become one of the knowledgeable Africans in a country. Just imagine, like the state of Georgia. No one would do anything without consulting you, even though you are not a professor in a university, but you've developed some intuitive knowledge that in that country, before they think of anything, they have to consult you. That was what I became in Ghana. Nothing moves without me. And I remember they sent me all over West Africa to collect plants. And I remember going to Dogon country. You know, I'm going to talk to you about Dogon people. So I go to Dogon country. I go there, somehow, immediately, all the plants that grow in the Dogon country, it looks like I knew them. I begin to just recite them. Those that were here, those that came from Star System Sirius, those that is used for this. It baffled all the people. So I continued, but I was very humble. I was very religious. I was studying the intricacies of the plants, those that are used to incant, to bring in the spirits, those that are used to heal diseases of the body as well as the mind. So the British government, my name had already been all over Europe. So the British government says that they want to make they want to have this boy come to Europe. You know, white people, whenever any black boy excel, they take you quickly. So they came to Ghana and they said that I must go to England. And
let me just interrupt for a second.
Yes.
Is anyone in here a Cadillac or brown car?
The brown car?
Are we right over here?
Yeah, behind the brand.
Yeah, he's blocking somebody. Yeah. Yeah, some of the restaurant people.
So they said that I must come to England to continue my education. Here I am. I have made a name for myself in my country. So people were actually fighting about me. The university in Ghana wanted me to stay there. The Ghana government forestry department wanted me to go to the forestry to work there. So I have become so useful in Ghana. They were pulling me. I never lived a day without a job, a meaningful job. So everybody was calling for me. This was the background by which one morning I received a message that in a British Parliament in London, many of the people were debating about me. In British Parliament, because here I am, I never went to college. I was only, I told you, after 11 years old, I didn't have any teacher anymore. All the knowledge that I had was intuition. Chemistry, mathematics, biology was intuition. In fact, sometimes it sort of amazes me. just like I'm talking to you, I will be reciting a book or two. And then when I finish, and they say, will you be reciting that book? Then they bring me that book. And all what is written in the book is what I recited. So they don't know how to place me in England. Now, I don't have a first degree, but I'm supposed to go to Oxford, the higher school for white people. Now, having been to a high school, so they said that, how can we place this boy? They said, well, why don't you make a law, pass a law in Parliament that someone with a special skill could be given a scholarship and he would bypass all the rules and regulations. So they made a law, and I was in Ghana. They brought me the letter that I had been given a permit that would exempt me from taking any exam, but to go to Britain, and they're going to pay me every week, and I'm to go to any of these higher schools to work and to study. I could not believe my fortune. I went and told my mother, and my mother says, I knew your father would go with you. So one morning I went into the airport, armed with my tickets, flew, landed in London, met by some of the best doctors in plant sciences. It took me to some of the best schools. It was at this school that I realized that truly I've been given a gift, because here I am. I have never had a teacher since 11. Now here I am at the top of the white man's school with all these well-prepared old elderly. I don't even I haven't been to school before. So I sat down pretending. For the first time I'm a student, you see. So to prove that I'm a student, let me tell you what I did the first week. I tried to wear, of course we have to wear a tie and white shirt. I tried to put a little bit of ink in my white shirt for people to know that I am a scholar. Then I tried to hold a lot of books. Even if I have to use 4 books, I will use 12 books for people to know I'm a scholar. Carry my books, because I've never done that before. And I had so much fun. I remember that in genetics, in plant physiology, in anatomy, I never ever opened the book. I went with my native intellect. I went with my native intellect, and I was able to unravel some of the genetics, some of the laws. So later on, after the exam, as they were discussing, come to find out that all that I knew was exactly as it has been written in the textbooks. This was my experiences that God placed on my path, and it led me to Buckingham Palace. It led me to some of the best botanists in this world. It led me to planting a tree with Emperor Hirohito of Japan. Can you believe that Rothschild, Anselm Rothschild, this Illuminati, Nathan, you see, he had so many children, you see. He placed one of the children in England, who is called Nathan Rothschild, who began this banking business. Can you actually believe that I, standing in front of you, it fell on me to go through all his plant collecting, because Nathan Rothschild became so wealthy. He now had a lot of money to go all over the world to collect rhododendrons. When I became very knowledgeable in Europe, they gave me all his writing and all his collection to go through them to classify some of his work. But at that time, I know nothing about Rothschild and Illuminati and all the rest of it. So I knew that God was preparing me for this work, and I continued. Here I am. I have become a botanist who now talk about the trees and the complexities. So the British government tells me, now you must stay in England. After my training, I was asked to stay in England for the rest of my life. I was to be at the Royal Botanic Gardens. I was on Fireball. You know, when you are in an establishment where you are in, That was what I was. I was in. I can never be fired because I had all the privileges. Then I felt homesick after a while. I felt homesick, so I wanted to go back to Africa. Then the British government says, no, we want to send you to South Africa. So they sent me to South Africa. It was there that I met many people, including the Secretary General of United Nations, Kofi Annan. I fancied myself as going to work for FAO. That was my next goal, because since I was a British scholar, it was just a next ladder to just hop to UN or FAO, the Food and Agricultural Organization based in Rome. Many of my friends had already penetrated that. But one day in South Africa, I had this vision, a vision of turning my back on all that I have been given in the white world. There was a map on the wall. The map appeared to speak to me that I should turn my back and start afresh, discard everything. I was well paid. Well, I came in at the contract. I gave up everything and began to walk around the world to write books and to talk to people about the mystery in nature. This is how I came to be in America. So here I am in South Africa. I've been all over the world except America. So I go to study American map. I study it in detail. I took it into meditation. Then the Spirit tells me I should go to a place called California. As a matter of fact, I must say this to you. My first vision in South Africa, when I went to see the spirits, what I should do with my life, they told me to go to Georgia. They told me I should go to a place called Fort Valley, Georgia. I've never been there. You know, there is a state college in Fort Valley. I would have been at Fort Valley about 25 years ago, because I had a vision of going to either Fort Valley in Georgia, which I have never been, but now I can go, or I should go to Butte County in Northern California. So I went to the British Embassy in South Africa, and I asked, where is California? And they begin to ask, where is Georgia? Where is Washington? And then they began to tell me, and then I remember the woman, a white woman in the embassy, says California is very beautiful and all the rest of it. And of course, there were so many reasons why I chose California. The chief of which was that I could transfer my funds, my money, through Barclays Bank.